So the Colts game just ended. I don't know about you, but I am juiced up. The way that thing ended, we had talked about and I had predicted a score of 30-13, and it was not like that. The final score of this game is 30-28. Colts come out on top in overtime. They take this thing almost to the very end and end up getting a touchdown to Michael Pittman, who had another incredible day. Pay Michael Pittman. Like at some point, you just have to understand he's going to get his every single week. He's turning into that guy. So Michael Pittman, pay him. He ends up with the game-winning touchdown. Alec Pierce having a couple of massive plays in this game. One to set the team up down in the goal line area so that Michael Pittman could get that touchdown. So just a great, gritty game. It's one thing we talked about yesterday. If you'd watched that video and if you didn't, we talked about one way or another. These games generally always end up being good games. I don't know. I thought it would be a good game for 3 quarters and the Colts would be able to pull away at the end. And again, just it didn't end up going that way. But for this entire game, it was back and forth. One team making plays on offense, the other team making play on offense. And you see defense is making plays. Special teams makes huge plays for the Colts in this one. So all in all, just a great gritty game, right? It wasn't perfect on either side. It was a bit of an ugly game. There were penalties on both sides of the ball. But when you go through and you look at these team stats, Colts end up with 355 yards of offense. Titans have 381, so they won in that category. But the Colts have 300 passing yards, where Titans have 204. Now, the issue in this game was that we weren't able to stop the run, especially when Derrick Henry was there. Obviously, got better without Derrick Henry. Tyjae Spears was still doing his thing. He was still effective. He was a big reason the Titans were able to get into field goal range there in overtime. So Tyjae Spears still doing his thing. They still end up with 177 rushing yards in this game. And I got to tell you, man, we can't get Grover Stewart back fast enough. He's finally going to be coming back. This was the last game that he had to miss. So finally going to be getting him back, and that should help the run defense. Without him, we've been giving up. I believe the stat is over 150 yards per game. Last week did better against the run. This week, not so much. So it's going to be really nice being able to get Grover Stewart back in the lineup, being able to, not have to worry about the run so much. More often than not, with Grover Stewart on the field, we're going to be able to stop the run. And as the week goes on, we'll talk more about that, talk more about the impact that Grover Stewart's going to have coming back onto this defense. But if you look at the yards per play in this game, the Colts were at 5.2 yards per play. Titans were at 4.7 yards per play. And where you have the defense struggling against the run game today, we had our offense struggling on third down. We were only 3 of 14. In the first half, we were 0 of 5, but somehow, some way, we end up still in that game. We were still making it a game there in the first half. And then we got the ball back first in the second half, had a 10-minute drive that we had a field goal on. And that was kind of the story of the game, right? You're looking at, again, third down, 3 of 14, getting into the red zone. The only time we scored a touchdown in the red zone out of our 4 trips was there at the very end of the game, which, yes, doing it when it matters the most, right? We're able to get the job done there at the end of the game, but it should have never been that situation. We had so many other opportunities to put points on the board, and we weren't able to get that done. So going forward, that's going to have to be fixed. That's something we're usually good at. And it's something that I thought, with it being the Titans and the way these games normally go, the familiarity, and with the Titans generally just having a pretty good defense under Vrabel, like in the red zone, they'll be able to figure it out. So I don't want to harp on it too much because, again, generally we're pretty good in those situations this season. But going forward, I just don't want that to become a normal thing where we're taking field goals instead of taking touchdowns when we're in the red zone or in the goal-to-go situations. 3 of 14, not going to get it done. Right? The rushing game was obviously impacted without Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss, for as great as he was, right? And you think back to the first game with the Titans, Zach Moss had a really good game. We end up with 55 rushing yards as a team in this game. Weren't able to run the ball. Luckily, there were some plays made in the passing game. Gardner Minshew ends up 26 for 42, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And I know there are going to be people in the comment sections talking about, oh, you were hating on Gardner last week, this and that. It's still, again, wasn't a pretty game. I feel like my take on Gardner has been consistent, right? Gardner Minshew is the best backup quarterback in the league. It's nice to have him not having Anthony Richardson, and we're still able to win games with him. But I'm still nervous when he drops back. There were many times in this game where he made plays that could have been turnovers, right? And then you have, in the pocket, running in the pocket and not trying to clutch the ball to his chest with two hands. Like that was something they talked about on the broadcast. And that's something that's fundamental for quarterbacks. And he fumbles the ball away when we're trying to score. So again, wasn't a perfect game, but Gardner did make some plays today. Those plays to Alec Pierce were massive. Had one there at the beginning of the game, and then the one to set up the game-winning touchdown there in overtime. He ends up with 3 catches, goes over 100 yards for the first time in his career, has a touchdown for the first time this season. So it's nice to see him finally getting involved, right? A game where Josh Downs wasn't very involved, 3 catches, 14 yards. Alec Pierce had a massive impact on this game and would have had an even better day if Gardner Minshew, Gardner misses throws. That's just a thing he does. That's why he's the best backup quarterback in the league and not one of the worst starters in the league. Like he's going to miss throws. So unfortunately, Alec Pierce ends up not having an even better day, but still, again, first 100-yard receiving game of his career, had a really good game today. Michael Pittman Jr. doing what he does, ended up with 11 catches, 105 yards, the game-winning touchdown, and in this game, Michael Pittman Jr. became the all-time leader for the Colts franchise in receptions through the first 4 seasons. And if you remember, he missed a lot of time in his rookie season. So you can say 17th game all you want. He missed some time in his rookie season, and he's just come out and he continues to ball out and do what he does. I think this is 4 or 5 consecutive games where he has 8+ catches. I think he now has 9 or 10 games this season where he has 8+ catches in those games. So he's just doing what he does every week. He comes and we know we're going to get from. He's going to catch it in traffic. He's going to get his first downs when we really need it. And just like today, when we need a play, he's the one that's going to make it. We saw it in the Baltimore game earlier this season. He was able to get it done here, and we needed every single bit of it. Right. But then you look at what else was happening, right? Kylan Granson had an impact in this game, 3 catches, 72 yards, including the little, double reverse flea flicker, I'm pretty sure is what it was, and ends up getting Kylan Granson. That was a big chunk of it. I believe that was 46 yards pretty early in the game, and then ends up with 2 catches outside of that. So for the most part, the targets were pretty concentrated to Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce for most of the game. But there were other guys, right? I named Kylan Granson, Josh Downs, Tyler Goodson, Zach Moss and Will Mallory were the only other guys that caught passes in this game. Zach Moss ends up with 19 carries, 51 yards, no touchdowns. And then you look at what the Titans were able to do. Will Levis finishes the game 16 for 33, which is under 50% completion percentage, by the way. 224 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Derrick Henry, 21 carries, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he left the game with concussion. Tajay Spears, 16 carries, 75 yards. And as expected, we had talked about at some point, DeAndre Hopkins probably going to get past the secondary for a touchdown. He ends up 5 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. And their tight end, Chiggy Okonkwo, ends up with 3 catches, 62 yards. Outside of that, it was a quiet day for their passing game. So all in all, it was nice to see, at different times, all 3 phases, coming in and making plays and making things happen, right? Defense, got to give the defense a lot of credit. The offense was struggling at different parts of the game, and the defense was either able to get off the field or hold the Titans to a field goal. They did the best they could all day. They were able to get it done in overtime and hold them to a field goal so that we could have a chance to go down and score touchdowns. So, again, it wasn't perfect, but we came out, we were able to get a win. The thumbnail the other day said divisional dogfight. That's what it ended up being. We knew this was going to be a dogfight, and it ended up being that way. And going forward, I believe it's the Bengals that we have next week, and that's a game that should be very winnable. Right, we got to see what the injury outlook's looking like coming out of the week. We'll see if there's any, maybe Juju Brent's coming back to practice. Even if he comes back to practice, I assume he's probably not playing right away. But we'll see if anything changes from this week. We'll see if there's anything that comes out after the game. We know sometimes some guys, report concussions after the game or different injuries after the game. So we'll see if anything pops up. If it does, I'll let you guys know. You let me know your reaction to the Colts being able to win this game. Again, I don't know about you. I am so pumped up, man. I was so juiced when Michael Pittman Jr. caught that touchdown. So if you share that feeling, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get notified when we put videos out. They come out every single day on this channel. We're going to continue the Would You Rather series, and I'm going to want your guys' opinion on that. So again, hit that sub button. Make sure you're getting notified of it. And until next time, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.